You must have heard the word government mentioned several times. In this chapter, you will learn about what a government is, the important role it plays in our lives, what do governments do, how do they decide what to do, what is the difference between different types of governments such as monarchies and democracies. Let's find out. Every country needs a government to make decisions and get things done. These can be decisions about where to build roads or schools, or how to reduce the price of onions when they get too expensive, or ways to increase the supply of electricity. The government also takes action on many social issues. For example, it has several programs to help the poor. It does other important things such as running postal and railway services. The government also has the job of protecting the boundaries of a country and maintaining peaceful relations with other countries. It is responsible for ensuring that all its citizens have enough to eat and have good health facilities. When there are natural disasters like tsunami or an earthquake, it is the government that mainly organizes aid and assistance for people who are affected. If there is a dispute or if someone has committed a crime, you find people in a court. Courts are also part of the government. Can you list three things that government does which we have not talked about? Comment below and let us know. Perhaps you are wondering how governments manage to do all this and why is it necessary for them to do so? When human beings live and work together, there needs to be some amount of organization so that decisions can be made. Some rules have to be made that apply to everyone. For example, there is a need to control resources and protect the territory of a country so people can feel secure. Governments do this on behalf of their people by exercising leadership, taking decisions, and implementing these among all the people living in their territory. Now, can you think of some examples of institutions that are part of the government? Well, some of them are the Supreme Court, the Indian Railways, Bharat Petroleum. Hope you are all paying good attention. Yes? Then answer this. What do you understand by the word government? And list 5 ways in which you think government affects your daily life. We just went through this, right? Let me know your answers in the comment below. Pretty interesting, isn't it? Let's make it more interesting with our next topic, which is levels of government. Now that you know that the government is responsible for so many different things, can you think of how it manages to do all these? The government works at different levels: at the local level, at the state level, and at the national level. Local level means in your village, town, or locality. State level obviously means at the state level. It covers an entire state like Haryana or Assam. And finally, the national level relates to the entire country. Let me give you a few examples. The decision of the government of India to maintain peaceful relations with Russia. What do you think? Which level does this belong to? Come on, take a guess. You're right, it is decided on the national level. This decision is taken by the central government. To acquire internal and international goals, the head of the country creates foreign policies. Next is The decision of the government of West Bengal on whether to have board exam in class 8 for all government schools. Now, since we are talking about a particular state here, it is decided on the state level. You are doing good. Ready for the next one? Introduction of two new trains between Dibrugarh and Kanyakumari. We briefly discussed that the government of India oversees the country's national railway system, remember? Therefore, this decision would be taken by the central government. Next is the decision to locate a common well in a particular area of the village. I'm sure you guessed it right. It would be decided on a local level. How about decision to construct a big children's park in Patna? Again, it is about a particular city, so it would be decided at the local level. Next one is the decision of the government of Haryana to provide free electricity for all the farmers. Now, since they are talking about a state, it would be on the state level. The last one is introduction of a new 1000 rupee note. It would be very well decided by the central government. Now, if I ask you, how many states are there in India? Do you know that? So, comment below in case you know that. And I'm sure you do. Also, do you know Telangana? It became the 29th state of India on the 2nd of June 2014 after the organization of the state of Andhra Pradesh. Here is a map showing the different administrative divisions of India. India is partitioned into 640 districts. Now, let's see laws and the government. The government makes laws and everyone who lives in the country has to follow these. This is the only way governments can function. Just like the government has the power to make decisions, similarly, it has the power to enforce its decisions. For example, there is a law that says that all persons driving a motor vehicle must have a license. Any person caught driving a vehicle without a license can either be jailed or fined a large sum of money. Without these laws, the government's power to make decisions is not of much use. Think of another example. Why do you think it is important that people abide by this law? In addition to any actions that governments can take, there are also steps that people can take if they feel that a particular law is not being followed. If a person feels, for example, that they were not hired for a job because of their religion or caste, he or she may approach the court and claim that the law is not being followed. The court can then give orders about what should be done. Hope that's clear. Now, moving on to the next topic, types of government. Who gives the government this power to make decisions and enforce laws? The answer to this question depends on the type of government there is in a country. In a democracy, it is the people who give the government this power. They do this through elections in which they vote for a particular person and elect them. Once elected, these persons form the government. In a democracy, the government has to explain its actions and defend its decisions to the people. Another form of government is monarchy. The monarch, that is the king or queen, has the power to make decisions and run the government. The monarch may have a small group of people to discuss the matters with, but the final decision-making power remains with the monarch. Unlike in a democracy, now tell me this. Which type of government would you prefer to have in your place and why? Comment below and tell me. Now, kings and queens do not have to explain their actions and to defend the decisions that they take. Now, let me ask you, do you think it is important for people to be involved in the decisions that affect them? Well, I think that yes, it is important that people are involved in decisions that affect them because people understand their issues in better way and thus can suggest better solutions to solve these issues. What do you think? If you wish to, you can share your thoughts in the comments below. Now let's do something fun. Okay. I'm going to tell you a few statements and you have to tell me which ones are correct. Also correct those that you think need correction. In a monarchy, the country's citizens are allowed to elect whomsoever they want to. In a democracy, a king has absolute powers to rule the country. In a monarchy, people can raise questions about the decisions the monarch takes. In case you have any doubts about these statements, please rewind the video a bit and go through it again and then answer these questions. Moving on to the next topic, democratic governments. India is a democracy. This achievement is the result of a long and eventful struggle for the Indian people. There are other places in the world where people have also struggled to have democracies. You now know that the main feature of a democracy is that the people have the power to elect their leaders. So, in a sense, a democracy is ruled by the people, right? The basic idea is that people rule themselves by participating in the making of these rules. Democratic governments in our times are usually referred to as representative democracies. In representative democracies, people do not participate directly, but instead choose their representatives through an election process. These representatives meet and make decisions for the entire population. These days, a government cannot call itself democratic unless it allows what is known as universal adult franchise. This means that all adults in the country are allowed to vote. Please note it. What is universal adult franchise? It means all adults in the country are allowed to vote. But it was not always like this. Can you believe that? There was a time when governments did not allow women and the poor to participate in elections. In their earliest forms, governments allowed only men who owned property and who were educated to vote. This meant that women, poor, propertyless, and uneducated were not allowed to vote. The country was governed by the rules and regulations that these few men made. In India, before independence, only a small minority was allowed to vote, and they therefore came together to determine the fate of the majority. Several people, including Gandhiji, were shocked at the unfairness of this practice and demanded that all adults have the right to vote. This is known as universal adult franchise. Writing in the journal Young India in 1931, Gandhiji said, I cannot possibly bear the idea that a man who has got wealth should have the vote, but that a man who has got the character but no wealth or literacy should have no vote, or that a man who works honestly by the sweat of his brow day in and day out should not have the vote for the crime of being a poor man. Nowhere in the world have governments willingly shared power. All over Europe and USA, women and the poor have had to fight for the participation in government. Women's struggle to vote got strengthened during the First World War. What happened during the First World War? Well, we'll come to that. This movement is called the women's suffrage movement, as the term suffrage usually means right to vote. During the war, many men were away fighting, and because of this, women were called upon to do work that was earlier considered men's work. Many women began organizing and managing different kinds of work. When people saw this, they began to wonder why they had created so many unfair stereotypes about women and what they were capable of doing. So, women began to be seen as being equally capable of making decisions. The suffragettes demanded the right to vote for all women, and to get their demands heard, they chained themselves to railings in public places. Many suffragettes were imprisoned and went on hunger strikes, and they had to be fed by force. American women got the right to vote in 1920, while women in the UK got to vote on the same terms as men some years later, that is in 1928. Have you ever seen your parents vote? Do you know that a mark is put on the finger after the voting is done? If you know why, comment below and tell us. Also, this ink that is put on the finger is not easily erasable. Do you know why? Well, with this, we come to an end of this beautiful chapter. Keep learning, keep watching I Say Kids, check out other videos too, and stay kind, be humble, eat healthy, take good care of yourself. We'll meet very soon with the next chapter. Hope you have subscribed to the channel, liked the video, and left me a comment. Have a good day. Bye bye.